Hey, good morning. It is good to have you back here for week 2 of relationship goals and just kind of the way things work out. God does this all the time. Before we jump in, we're talking about friends and relationship goals with friends today. I wanted to kind of share with you something that happened 2 weeks ago because of you and because of your friends. 2 weeks ago was Easter. And so we celebrated Easter over the course of Saturday and Sunday. We had 4 services and we were online as well as in person. And I wanted to let you know, thank you so much for inviting your friends. I met probably a dozen different people that said, hey, Pastor, I want to introduce you to my neighbor, my friend, my coworker, my family member, whatever it was. Thank you so much for doing that. We had over 760 people here in person for Easter, and then we had another 250, 300 people online. So there were over 1,030 people that got to celebrate Easter with us, and I wanted to thank you for doing that. Yeah, absolutely. It's not about a big number. It's not about any of that stuff. What's so exciting to me is over 1,000 people heard about Christ and celebrated the resurrection on Easter Sunday. And thank you for inviting people to join with you and share that with you. That was a great day for our church. And so thank you for doing that. I know a lot of you shared online. Some of you actually talked to real people and brought them in person, which was amazing. And so thank you for doing that. When I thought about friendships, really, I got to be honest with you, most of my concept of what friends were came from TV. And the way that happened was very simple. When I was a kid, I had a routine, probably like a lot of you. I went to school, and here was the deal with my parents. When I got home, if I would do my homework, I could watch TV from the time my homework was done until dinner. And some of you might be thinking, oh my goodness, that's forever. But not really. I would usually get done with homework around 4:30 or 5, and dinner was like at 5:30 or 6. So it really wasn't that big of a deal, but I thought it was great. And so every day I would come home, I'd get home from school, I would do my homework, and I would turn on our non-cable TV with all 4 channels, right? All 4, 3 of which, ABC, NBC, and CBS, were running the news. So I was left to watch the local station, and the local station always had reruns. And one of the shows they ran, it seemed like for years in this time slot, was Happy Days. I loved Happy Days. I thought it was a great show, and a lot of my ideas about what friendship should be, what high school was going to be like, came from watching the show Happy Days. Like, everybody's going to support each other, we're all going to be cool, and we'll have plenty of time to hang out at the hamburger place. I figured that's pretty much, those are my relationship goals. When I get to high school, that's what I want things to be like. And then as I got a little bit older, I started watching another show. And that show was Cheers. Cheers was pretty much the same as Happy Days, really, in retrospect, except it happened in a bar instead of the hamburger place. Everybody knew each other. Everybody cared about each other. Everybody was invested in each other's lives. And long before there was a Ross and Rachel, there was a Sam and Diane. And so that was Cheers. And I thought, yes, I want to have friends like that. I want to hang out together. I want to be around people that like me. And then, as I got to be a young adult, I started watching a show called Friends. Anybody heard of Friends? And as I watched Friends, it really finally dawned on me that these are all the same. They're not hanging out at a bar, they're hanging out at the coffee shop, and they're hanging out in Monica's apartment, and you know, we love the song, you know, I'll be there for you. You know, we all like the little stuff of Friends, and we felt like, yes, that would be perfect. If I was a young adult and single and living in New York, I mean, this is what I want. And as you watch these shows, you think, you know what, they've tapped into something. They really have tapped into a relationship goal that we all have when it comes to having friends. Really what it is we want other people to know us, and even though they know us, they like us anyway. That's what we're really after when it comes to friends. And so I want to take a quick poll that has nothing to do with anything. If you're online, you can take it with us. You type it in the chats. But between Happy Days, Cheers, and Friends, which was your favorite show? So how many of you would say Happy Days? Raise your hand. Hey, more than I thought. Good for you. Old people, we got to stick together. How many of you would say Cheers? Cheers was my favorite of those 3 shows. All right, yeah, not too bad. And then how many of you Friends? If I had to pick one, I would pick Friends. All right, how many of you think you guys all waste your time watching TV? You're terrible people. No, I'm just kidding. You type it in the chat, let us know. TV is fun, it's entertaining, whatever, but the reality is it's probably not the best place, because it's make-believe, to base your real life goals and expectations around relationships, around what your life should be like, around what it means to be somebody's friend. Because here's what I've discovered, and maybe you have too. Friendship is one of those things that on the one hand, it's super comfortable. It really is. You don't have to be anybody. You don't have to act any certain way. The great thing about being friends with somebody is it's like you can walk into their house and your phone already attaches to their Wi-Fi. I mean, it is super comfortable. You don't have to ask for the password or anything. It's like, I'm in a happy place. But friendship's also complicated, isn't it? There's parts where you just run into things where you and your friend just don't agree. You just don't see the world the same way. There's moments where your friend's going through something hard and it feels like it's going to cost you too. And so it is comfortable and we like it when it's smooth and easy. It's also complicated and it can require things of us and it can make us stretch and rethink some things. And sometimes things we don't want to have to deal with, we have to deal with because our friends are dealing with it. And so it's comfortable and it's complicated. And because it's complicated, this is just Brett's opinion, I think it's part of the reason why real friendship, I don't mean following somebody on social media or liking somebody's profile. I mean really being a friend. I think that's why real friendship is kind of rare. And it's not just me that thinks this. I was, kind of getting ready for today and thinking about some things and looking at stuff. Did you know people that are 45 and older, 1/3 of them said that one of the best words to describe them is lonely. Like if they had to pick words to describe them, 1/3 of people 45 and older pick the word lonely. Lonely is a good descriptor for me. And for people 65 and older, 25% of those folks, almost 1 out of 4, is considered socially isolated. You're like, well, what does that mean? It basically means that they will go days and weeks without any human contact. That they are so socially isolated, they don't have connections or contact with anyone. And so that's not where any of us want to be. But again, because friendships are both comfortable and complicated, a lot of us are ending up there. And you may not be there right now, and I hope you never get there. But it is what's happening in the world around us. And one of the other things I've noticed, and maybe you've seen this too, whatever you are, the older you get, the more magnified it becomes, right? I mean, and so let me explain. If in your 20s, you're a little bit critical and angry and cynical, by the time you're 70, you're the person nobody wants to be around, right? Because it just gets bigger and broader and wider and more amplified and more magnified. If you're starting off kind of rough, you tend to just get rougher. But the other side of it's true too, which is actually a really cool part. If you start off as kind of a humble, sweet, considerate person in your 20s, by the time you get to your 70s, I don't mean any offense by this at all, so don't take this the wrong way. You're the grandma or the grandpa that everybody wants to be around. Right? We love being around them. We love having them in our life because they're so encouraging and they just have such a refreshing attitude and they're positive and they're constantly building you up and that's the person I want to be around. And here's what I've noticed. The people that start off sweet and just get sweeter, most of the time, they have some incredible friendships in their life. And those friendships, not the only reason, but that's part of the reason that they become that really sweet person that everybody wants to have around. Now, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about specifically friendships. And it goes right back to what we talked about last week. If you weren't with us, we came up with a very simple principle that guides all of this. Because when it comes to our relationships, we got to make sure our head's on straight. Because if it's not, we'll have the wrong expectations, we'll have bad experiences, and we'll turn around and blame everybody and everything else and wonder, why isn't this working? Now, here's the key. Here's what underlies all of this stuff. The right relationships in your life, they come from you being the right person. It's not about the right time. It's not about the right place. It's not, well, I finally met the right person, and so I don't have to work at the relationship. Nope. None of those things are right. The only way you're going to have a right relationship in your life is by you becoming the right person. That's how this works. And this comes right out of Proverbs. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Again, we talked about this last week. And just to summarize that verse, it's very simple. It's very basic. It says that if you are willing to trust God's ways, not my own expectations, not what my best friend says, not what they're posting on Instagram. No, if I am willing to trust God's ways and God's directions, if I will lean into that instead of what I think it should be, there's a promise attached to that. That God will make your life, your relationships, right. The way the verse says it is he'll make your path straight. And so that is the bedrock. That is the foundation of all of our relationships, whether they're people we just kind of know, hey, I know that guy, all the way down to this is the closest relationship I have in my life is with this person. These things are always true. That God's ways are better than everybody else's ways, and that me becoming the right person is what's going to make this relationship right. So, as we talk about friendships, a couple of things. We're going to talk about who you choose. We're going to talk about who you become, and then finally we're going to talk about who you commit to. And all three of these things come right out of Proverbs. So if you've got a Bible or you want to follow along in the app, we're going to start in Proverbs chapter 13. because Proverbs just is one of those books, man. It is a relationship handbook. Regardless if you're talking about marriage, friendship, parenting, whatever it might be, Proverbs is a relationship handbook. It gives such incredible wisdom about relationships and really, more importantly, how we become the right person. So Proverbs 13:20 is where we're going to start, and it says this: walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And that sounds kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of like one of those wise Yoda sayings. What am I supposed to do with that? And it's actually a little bit tricky, isn't it? Because if you didn't know anything else, if you were just reading this, you'd say, walk with the wise and become wise. Yeah, okay, I get that. Walk with the foolish, and well, doesn't that mean I become foolish? And it actually doesn't say that at all. It says if you walk with the wise, you become wise. If you walk with the fool, what happens? You suffer harm. It hurts you to walk with the foolish. And just a little aside, anytime the Bible talks a lot about what it means to be wise and what it means to be foolish, and especially the book of Proverbs. And so I want to give you kind of a little cheat code about what to think about when I run into that. Does wise mean like being a really smart person or the best student in the class or something like that? Not in this context. In this context, whenever the Bible talks about being wise and being foolish, it means a very simple thing. A wise person is a person who lives with God as the focus of their life. A wise person lives as God is the focus of my life. A foolish person lives with some other focus. That's all it means. The foolish person has a focus, don't get me wrong, but their focus is not on God. And because their focus is not on God, the book of Proverbs and the Bible would say that's a foolish way to live. Rather, live with your focus on God. That is a wise way to live. And so he tells us to live wisely, walk with the wise, because we'll become wise. And so here's Brett's kind of interpretation of all of this, and maybe this will be helpful to you. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. So choose wisely, right? Now, your family, you don't have a lot of choice, but every other relationship you have, it's completely your choice. And if the quality of your life is going to be determined by the quality of your relationships, then you really need to choose wisely. This is really actually very important. And it's true no matter how old you are. If you're 8, if you're 18, if you're 80, this is true. Who you hang around with has a lot to do with who you are and who you become. Your parents, if you remember, or maybe if you are parents right now, what do they always want to know when you're going out with your friends? Who's going to be there? Where are you going? Do I know that person? Where do they live? What does their parents do for a living? I mean, it's like we want to know everything about whoever our kids are hanging out with, because intuitively, even if you've never read Proverbs, we know this is true. If you're running around with kids that are going to get in trouble, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get in trouble. And I don't want that for you. I want you to hang around with wise people, not foolish people. I don't want you to get hurt because you're not choosing wisely. And again, this isn't, again, like I said, it's not even a Bible thing. It's obviously in Proverbs. But Jim Rohn, who's a motivational speaker, he talks about this. And as far as I know, he's not a follower of Jesus, but he has a great way of saying this. He gets quoted all the time. He says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, some of you are auditing your 5 people real quick. And like, some of you are like, hey, that's great. And some of you are like, uh-oh, that's what I want to be like. I gotta figure something out. It's true. We know it's true. We've experienced it. We've lived it. I lived it in real life. And I got to go all the way back to when I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, I lived in a neighborhood, and I know some of you, this is just, you can't imagine anything like this, and I understand. But when I was 10, the evenings, the weekends, and the summers meant get on your bike, go run around with the neighborhood kids, go play in the sand lot, go play, ride your bikes down to Circle K and buy a Slurpee. I mean, that was what we did in our free time, and it was pretty much just run out the door, and I'm going to go play, and Mom and Dad were happy for us to leave the house. It was a good thing, right? I know the world is different, but that was my world. And so that's what we did. Every summer, every afternoon, every weekend, we were playing baseball in the vacant lot, we were riding our bikes, and we were hanging out at Circle K because we could buy Slurpees and baseball cards, and for us, that was the most important thing in the world. And one of the guys that was with us, his name was Scotty G. And Scotty G was a little bit of a legend among the rest of us. He was a couple years older, so that probably helped, but Scotty would always try and pull off the coolest bike tricks. Some of them were like, I'm not trying that. He would try it, and he would actually do it. And Scotty G was the best ball player out of all of us. I mean, everybody knew he was the best player. He was the best hitter. He was the best pitcher. He was faster than everybody else. I mean, he was the best player. And Scotty G was not above borrowing a candy bar from Circle K without paying for it. which kind of elevated him even more to legend status. Not that stealing candy bars is right. You should never do that. But when you're 10 and your 12-year-old friend does that, you're like, ooh, you're pretty cool, man. So Scotty G was kind of a legend for the rest of us until one fall. One fall, we went back to school, and so the only time we could play ball was on Saturdays. And I remember him telling us, we all got off the school bus, we were walking home, he said, hey, tomorrow be at the field at 9, we'll play at 9. I'm like, okay. And so we all went home, we did whatever we did, and we got on our bikes, and we went and set out to go play baseball early on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, got to the field, and everybody was there except Scotty. And the problem was, Scotty is the only one that had a ball. And so we're kind of stuck until Scotty gets there. And we're waiting, I don't know how long it was, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we're kind of like, I guess he's not coming. Maybe he forgot, maybe he got grounded, that kind of stuff happens. So we were getting ready to leave, and everybody's like, no, stay. He'll be here. All right, we waited a few more minutes, and then finally, Scotty G comes pedaling up with the ball. And he's like, come on, guys, I'm sorry, let's play, And so we played ball. We did what we always did. And then, because my house was between the vacant lot and the Circle K, when we were done, we would ride by, and I would always throw my bike down, run inside, go get some money, and then we'd go to Circle K. And this time, we rode by my house, and I stopped. I said, wait a minute, guys. I ran inside. I went to get my money. I probably had like $7, and it was gone. I kept it right on my nightstand, and it was gone. And my first thought was, to be honest with you, is like, my brother took it. I'm going to get my brother. I'm sure he took my money. I looked around, I couldn't find it. Nobody else was home. I was like, ah. So I went back outside and I told the guys, I don't have any money. You have to go without me. And they did, and they went. About a week later, I found out what actually happened. Scotty had told all the guys, hey, go down and play ball, and I'll be there late. I'm going to go by Brett's house. I'm sneaking in his bedroom window. I'm going to take his money, and I'll treat everybody to Slurpees. And that's exactly what he did, which is pretty devious for 12 years old, but that's what he did. And one of my friends, he told me, he said, I'm not supposed to tell you because he said he'd beat us up if we told you, but he came and took all your money, and he bought us all Slurpees, and we feel really bad about it, and we don't want to hang out with Scotty anymore. And I was stunned on the one hand because I never would have expected that. I thought Scotty was my friend, but I learned a pretty important lesson. It matters who you choose to hang out with. It really does. And to be honest, looking back now, I'm actually proud of my friends, not because we cut Scotty out, but because they said, that's not who we want to be. Those aren't we don't want to be those kind of kids that steal from each other and that do things like that. That's not us. That's not who we are. And so as you edit and audit your role of the 5 people that you're closest to, I would ask you a very simple question. Are you walking with the wise? If you are, keep doing it. If you're not, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. So you got to be smart about who you choose when it comes to your relationships, especially when it comes to your friendships and your friendship goals. Choose the right people. But the second thing is who you become. And this comes right out of Proverbs 17. Proverbs 17, verse 17 actually says it this way. A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for a time of adversity, or some may say for adversity, depending on your translation. A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for a time of adversity. Again, it's kind of this idea that it's who you become. It goes right back to that. If I'm going to have the right relationships, I have to be the right person. I can't count on everybody else. I can't count on all the circumstances. It's not going to just work magically. Talk to somebody that's been married for a while and loves their partner, but also says, hey, it's work. Friendships are the same way. They're work. Maybe you've heard the expression, or maybe you've lived it, where you go through a hard time. And you kind of heard there's some version of this saying that, it really shows you who your friends are. Right? We know what that means. We're saying that I went through a hard time, and the people I expected, the people I was counting on, I thought would be there, I thought would walk with me, I thought would support me, I thought would help me. Some of them were there, but a lot of them weren't. And that's generally what we mean, and that's actually true, but I want to take that one step further. I want to take that into this idea of becoming the right person. See, your troubles show you who you are. Your friends' troubles show you who you are. Your troubles show you who your friends are. Your friends' troubles show you who you are. Do you walk in when everybody else is walking out? When they're going through these times of adversity, are you there? And it really is a kind of a probing question. And really, here's how it hit me, and maybe this will help. I got to thinking about this. We have this weird standard right now, where when we think of friends, it means you have to agree with me on everything. You have to support me on everything. You have to, tell me that I'm great all the time. You have to like everything that I like. You have to be on board with me and everything I want to do all the time, or you're not my friend. And that's kind of crazy. There's really no way to do that. And I guess the way I would explain it is this. When I look back at my life, I look at 2011 Brett, 10 years ago. There's things about 2011 Brett that 2021 Brett doesn't agree with. There's things that he thought, that I thought was important, that I valued, opinions that I had, and choices I made, that if I had them all to do over again today, I'd be like, no, I don't agree with that. I don't support that anymore. I don't think that way. Now, don't get me wrong. I still believe and follow Jesus, and he is the foundation of my life. None of that has changed. But opinions, choices, preferences, thinking about how the world works, yeah, I think differently than I did 10 years ago. And to take it one step further, and I'm sure I'm the only one that's like this. There's some things about 2021 Brett I don't like all that much, right? I mean, there's some things, if I could change them, I would change them. And I'm trying to change them. I'm trying to become a different person. There's things in my life, there's things that I say, there's things that I do, there's attitudes that I have, there's motivations that really aren't all that pure. There's all this kind of stuff going on inside of me. And so here's where it finally hit me. If I don't even agree with me all the time, if I don't even like me all the time, how could I expect another person, a friend, to hold up to that same standard that I can't even keep for myself? Man, that makes no sense. I mean, the idea I can only be friends with you if you agree with me, if you support me, if you nod your head every time I say something, that's crazy. That's arrogant. I mean, there's things today that I'm probably wrong about. And to expect everybody else to agree with me is just foolish. You see, it's about who we're becoming. It's not about who they are when it comes to being friends. As a matter of fact, take it even one step beyond all of that. It's actually illustrated perfectly in what Jesus did for me and what he's done for you. You see, Jesus saw me with all my wrong thinking, all my bad attitudes, all my poor motivations, and you know what he did? He invited me to be his friend anyway. Even though I treated him like an enemy, I had done everything possible to not be a good person, to not be a friend. And Jesus extends an invitation to me to become his friend. And not only does he extend an invitation for me to become his friend, he tells me, if you will become my friend, I will make you into who you were supposed to be. I will help you become the person that you were created to be. See, it is about who we are becoming. I love what Jackie Luau said. Jackie Luau writes for Vox.com, and he said this about friendships. And again, same thing. This is not a guy that, as far as I know, that follows Jesus or anything else, but it's just plain common sense. He said it this way: what a lot of people don't appear to understand is that the single easiest way to make friends is to show up when it matters. And the single easiest way to lose friends is to not. Who are we? Are we the people that walk in when there's adversity, or are we the people that walk out when our friends face adversity? Are we willing to be there in the middle of the hardship? We expect our friends to be there for us. Are we the kind of people that they should never have to doubt whether we are going to be there for them? So as you audit who you choose and you think about who you're becoming, it takes us to this last consideration, this last idea, and it is, who are you going to commit to? And this comes right out of Proverbs 18. Let me share this with you. Proverbs 18, verse 24. It says it this way: one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. One who has unreliable friends, if you make the Scotty G's of this world your friends, you're going to come to ruin. I love the way that the late Steve Irwin says this. He was the crocodile hunter. You remember him? Oh, I might. Remember that guy? He had a great quote about friendship and crocodiles. He said it this way. He said that crocodiles are easy. They kill you. They try to kill you and eat you. People are a little harder. Sometimes they pretend to be your friends first, right? I mean, there are some folks out there like that are committed to nothing but themselves. But when it comes to you and me, when it comes to our friendships, when it comes to our relationship goals, the question isn't so much about making a commitment. The real question is, are you going to commit to the right friend? Are you going to commit to the right friend? You see, there is one that does everything we just talked about without fail, sticks closer than a brother, was born for times of adversity, was actually born for our adversity. that always loves at all times, that lived a life that was completely focused on God and invites us to do it with him. Do you know that Jesus called his earliest followers his friends? And it wasn't one of those situations where Jesus said, look, I'm smarter than all of you. I'm better than all of you. I'm more powerful than all of you. I've not made the mistakes that you all have made. You all need to get in line and line up behind me. He could have said that. He could have taken that approach, but he didn't. He took the approach of inviting me to first be his friend. He says, I've told you everything. I've shown you all there is to show. Everything you need to know. I've made it plain. I call you. I consider you my friends. Are you willing to commit to being my friend? That's what Jesus is asking. And one of the things we talk about in church is the gospel. And if you've been with us, you've probably heard that term before. Or maybe you've gone to church your whole life, you've heard the gospel, and you're like, I think I know what it is, but I'm not 100% sure. And the gospel is actually very, very simple. The gospel is a translation of a word. It just simply means good news, that there's something good to share. And for a lot of us, we grew up going to church thinking maybe something along these lines. The gospel is that one and done thing, right? Where I decide that I want to accept Jesus' offer of being friends with him. And because he died on the cross and because he rose from the dead, my sins are kind of covered, like he took my place, took my punishment, and then he rose from the dead. And so I have a brand new life too. And so when I believe that and I'm willing to follow him, that's the gospel, right? Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, that absolutely is the gospel. But sometimes when we see it as a one and done thing, like remember that decision I made way back there, we miss out on so much that God has for us. The gospel is an everyday reality. Because of what Jesus has done, the Spirit of God comes to live inside us when we become his followers. And that Spirit goes to work in us and helps us become someone else. We become the person God created us to be. We change. And the reason that it's so fantastic and the reason that it's such good news, it's the changes we could not have made on our own. Because let's be honest, we know what our problems are, we know where our failings are, and for most of us, if we could have changed them by now, we would have. It's the power of the gospel that changes us and helps us become someone else. And the reason that our relationships can end up right is because we become the right person. And the only way we become the right person is by first becoming a friend of Jesus and following him. And I got to be honest with you, I kind of set you up today. I started you off backwards. It really isn't first about who you choose. And it is about who you become in the middle. But what it is about first is who you commit to. Because when you make that commitment to Christ in the same way that he's committed to you, in the same way that he's invited you into friendship, you commit to following him, to trusting him. He changes who you are. He helps you become who you were supposed to be. And that then, in fact, leads you to relationships with other wise people, and it redeems the relationships in your life. And all of a sudden, your friendship goals start to make sense. Those relationship goals about having rich, meaningful, full relationships, all of a sudden they start to stack up and they feel right. And let me just tell you, having friendship goals is wise. It is good. God created even the concept of friendship. He wants you to have rich, full, and meaningful relationships in your life. And friendship is really very simple. You break it all down. If you try to just summarize it in a simple way that even a child could understand, what does it mean to be a friend? It means to be for someone else. I'm for them. I'm behind them. I want what's good for them. I want them to have all the things they're supposed to have. I want them to have a great life. I am for them, which is actually pretty phenomenal. Because if you've been around Mountain Ridge for very long, you know one of the things we say over and over and over is God is for you. God is not about getting things from you. God is for you. And recently we've been added to that as a church family, as the Mountain Ridge community of people, I'm not talking about the building or any of that, I'm talking about the people you're sitting next to. We are for you. We are for you in that we are behind you, and we are for you in that this is a place for you. We have a place for you. So if God is for you and your church family is for you, what that does is it allows you to be for your friends. You don't have to look at every relationship and look at it from the standpoint of what am I getting out of it? Am I getting what I need? Are they giving me what I want? Are they agreeing with me? Are they siding with me? Are they affirming me? Are they accepting me? It actually reverses itself. How can I be for you? because I want right relationships. And I know that means I have to be the right person. You see, the stakes are actually pretty high. The decisions you make about your friends and your relationship goals today, they are going to show up 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 years from now, however long you get. They're going to show up and they're going to be magnified. And you're either going to be that person that has continually made everything about them, or you're going to be that person, if you get on the right side of this, you're going to be that person that everybody wants around them because of who you've become, because of what Christ has done in you. And so I am so glad as a church that we have taken that approach. And we are the kind of people that we are going to win at this. And it's not because of our strength, it's because of God's strength and what he's done in us and what he's going to do through us. We are the kind of people that are going to walk in when everybody else walks out. We are the kind of people that we don't want adversity, but when it comes to our lives and the lives of our friends, we actually step in because we were born and have become the kind of people that step into adversity. And we're going to love at all times, because God has actually done all of those things for us. He's done it for us, and he showed us how to do it. And so I hope as you review in your mind who your friends are and who you're becoming and where you're committed to, that these things resonate, that you build your goals off of this, because God has an incredible life for you and incredible friendships lined up for you if you're willing to walk in the path that he puts in front of you. Let's pray together.